Hello and welcome to Kick-Ass Brand Show. I'm Andre Minkov, the founder of Trademark Factory. Today, I have with me Steve Brooks, who for the last 35 years has been coaching and mentoring entrepreneurs and business owners in the UK, the US, and all around the world. His sweet spot is helping businesses grow and scale from $1 million to $3 million. He had quite a journey before he got to this point. Born to a family of a bus driver and a factory worker, Steve has worked for a bank, an insurance company, a major retail chain, until he found his true vocation in sales and motivating others, which are really the two sides of the same coin. I mean, selling is about motivating others to do what is best for them, and motivating others is about selling your vision to them, right? See how this makes sense? Okay, so Steve wrote 4 books and has spoken at numerous events around the world and is now fully invested in driving enthusiasm around his latest published book, the 10K Business Challenge. In this episode of the Kick-Ass Brand Show, we discussed what mindset you need to have to get to the $1 million mark and how to grow your business from there. We also had a fascinating discussion about different approaches to branding. So if you are building a business, you should check it out. Just saying. So Steve, welcome. Great to have you on Kick-Ass Brand Show.
Thank you. I'm absolutely blown away to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. So we met under very interesting circumstances.
We did.
I came to Chicago for the drum camp, and I stayed with one of my old friends who's also a client for whom we're doing a bunch of trademarks. And he says, you got to meet Steve. He is my mentor. He is coaching me to take our business to the next level. And that's how we met and had a great conversation. And we wanted to take this to the next level. How did you meet Victor?
Interesting. The power of LinkedIn, basically. And it's worked for me a number of times. Victor was trawling through LinkedIn, I think looking for people to connect with because he was new in Chicago at the time. And, you know, he coming to a strange country as I did, you know, three years ago, was trying to build his network. And I had a skill set that he was looking for, an industry background that he was allied to the business that he was starting. And literally it was a message on LinkedIn, which has made me an even bigger fan of LinkedIn anyway, because it works for me consistently. I'm blown away by it.
Mm-hmm. So LinkedIn is where you get most of your leads?
I'd say 50% of them come through LinkedIn. And then the rest are a recommendation or great conversations that you just have with people and so on. But I think people are really coming round to the idea now about LinkedIn being more than very much a stuffed shirt business social platform.
Mm-hmm.
I did a couple of posts recently about, you know, lighten up LinkedIn because, you know, people are like, well, this is content for Facebook and this is content for Instagram and all of that. Well, that's just rubbish because, you know, whilst your messages might want to be different on LinkedIn as they are on Facebook, it's still a community, and a community still needs to interact, and it still needs to have serious people and funny people and innovative people. So, you know, for me, I think it's been underrated, but I think even people like Gary Vee, who we're both big fans of, you know, is now really prominent actually on LinkedIn with some of the stuff he's been doing as well. So underestimated by a lot of people, I think, but you know,
did you spend a lot of time optimizing your profile on LinkedIn, or you just come naturally?
No, I've tinkered with it. I have to say, you know, forever going back. In fact, just yesterday, you know, we were looking at my profile and just changing. I mean, things change. Like, you know, you're 35 years in business, and then all of a sudden you're 36 6 years in business, right? The little nuances like that, but also just trying to keep pace with current thinking or what becomes more relevant for people. Listen, I'm a Brit living in America, so I like to think I have a little bit of an edge on people because everybody has to listen to what I'm saying because they don't understand a word I'm talking about. So
you're actually making a great point. One of my very first mentors, somebody I took business classes from, he was from South Africa. He wasn't really an amazing speaker on stage. And that particular, I think, was the sole reason why I listened to him so hard. Because otherwise, you go to an event, you're like, wow, this is such a great speaker. And 2 hours later, you don't remember a word he said because it was just about how great of an orator he is rather than the content. And so the accent is actually sometimes something that helps us to listen more to what they say. But look, you mentioned you're starting to take away all the question I was going to ask you anyway. So you mentioned 35, 36 years, Brit living in the US. Tell me a bit more about your story. Tell us a bit more about your story.
It's a long one, and I know we haven't got time, so I'll just give you the highlights if that's okay. Right. I actually got into sales when I was 8 years old. Okay, I sat outside my granddad's house with 2-day-old newspapers, selling them for pennies. And my grandfather went, what the hell are you doing? And I sold a load. And I use that just as a, listen, I think that was the first taste of sales I ever had.
So you were selling people yesterday's news.
Well, listen, isn't that what CNN does all the time anyway? Fox and everybody else. And I was maybe just first to the game. Who knows? So I left school at 16. I didn't enjoy education. I've made no bones about that. Went to work for a bank, hated it. Was there 6 months. Left, did the next best thing. Went to work for an insurance company, hated that. Managed to get onto a management training scheme with a very, very well known retailer at the time, and found my niche. Found my love of communicating with people and understanding how people think and work. Was fortunate enough to work with an amazing retailer, a guy called Bob Monksfield, who even today I reference when I speak to people, just because the lessons he taught us were invaluable. He would have phrases like in the middle of August, thinking in terms of thinking of Christmas. And as a kind of 18-year-old, everybody was kind of glazing over, had no idea what he was talking about. But he was trying to teach us about planning ahead and thinking forward and so on. Very, very early lesson to learn. And then from there, moved into a kind of direct sales role and then was headhunted to join a business that was just starting in a very new industry called commercialization, which was selling space in retail outlets throughout the UK. And 6 months into that, the guy that had headhunted me to join him, and there was only 2 of us then, decided that actually it probably wasn't for him and would have liked to buy the business. So that's how I got into owning businesses, and I haven't worked for anybody else since. I went for work, as I say, I went from working for a madman to working for a lunatic. So that's how I got into business, and 30 odd years later, I've bought and sold businesses. I've published a number of books. I've spoken and been fortunate enough to work in 57 different countries around the world. And I've done things on TV and all the nice warm stuff that kind of just makes you feel good. And then about 20 years ago, got into coaching and training and mentoring people. Quite by accident, we decided to monetize all this knowledge that we had that we were giving away for free at the time, specifically in the retail sector, and that's just mushroomed out. So now I have clients in fintech and photography and charities and all sorts of different businesses, and it's an amazing journey, and every day is different. And I am truly thankful and grateful for where I am now. I love it.
So I actually used you as an example yesterday at a mastermind meeting, there was a coach who was, somebody who wanted to become a coach, wanted to get
Okay.
into the industry. And he's like, well, I don't know if I want to, come up with a narrow niche or just be a coach for everybody, for everything. I'm like, you don't want to do that. And I used you as an example of somebody who is very, very targeted in terms of exactly what you help companies do and scale from one number to the next number, and basically that's your sweet spot. How do you get there, and what the sweet spot is?
Yeah. So, well, the sweet spot is kind of the 1 to 3 million mark for me. CEOs, C-suite executives that want to take the next leap, right? Because that's kind of a comfortable business where things are probably ticking along, but you want to be challenged and they want to take the next leap. And it is a big leap. You know that yourself, and I'm sure people watching this, have been on that journey or are just about to start that journey. How I got to that, I think, is a little bit of trial and error. I mean, it's just you work with people, and I've turned away people because I don't think they're committed enough to what they want to do, or it's I should be getting a coach because everybody's getting a coach. That's the worst reason in the world to get one. I can tell you all the great reasons, but that's the worst reason in the world for actually aligning yourself with a mentor and a coach. But through understanding what my strengths were as well, and I've been described as a bit of a guerrilla marketing guru. So being able to focus on people's marketing efforts and sales efforts is probably the best area where I have an impact. But of course, I'm learning every day, right? So my knowledge and my experience of working with a variety of different people in my career, there are just things that will just, actually I've seen this before, and it might have been 20 years ago, right? But this is how you deal with it. Or, this is something, so this came up yesterday, and this is the line across that tags into that. What I think is the thing that I'm really crazy about right now is everybody's calling themselves a coach, right?
Yeah.
You've got people running ads on Instagram and LinkedIn.
An author, speaker, and a coach. An author, speaker, and a coach.
Yeah, become a coach in 16 weeks. No, I've 36 years I've been in business. I'm still learning. And yes, I can add value very quickly, but you can't. You can understand the basics, and if you were reading from a script coaching somebody, and I've seen people do that. Okay, but it's like the word entrepreneur. The word entrepreneur, I think, is we don't know how to tag people that don't want to follow the conventional routes that our parents followed and things like that, right? So we call them an entrepreneur. Well, some people are just lost, and I think we just have to accept that. Some people are just lazy, and we just have to accept that because we can't change them. But then there are some people that are very focused and know what they want and are prepared to, work 18, 19 hours a day. And read my post on LinkedIn from yesterday. Stop buying dumb shit so they can raise the capital to actually get their business off the ground. Stop worrying about failing. Stop worrying about what people will think, and stop thinking that it's not the right time, right? And if you overcome all of those and you focus yourself, you'll be successful.
But doesn't this piece of advice primarily relate to businesses that are under $1 million? If you got to $1 million mark, you pretty much are supposed to have addressed all this bullshit. Are you not?
Well, actually, you're supposed to have done. Yes, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. When I talk to businesses that are in that kind of niche, and I go, okay, so you got here, and you want to make the next leap. What's the plan for that? What's the business plan look like? What's the investment deck look like, because you need to bring in, some VC funding or whatever, and they don't have that, right? They maybe don't have a marketing strategy. It's just, we've been making sales like this, and so we get sales, we just bumble along, and it's surprising how many businesses do that, and also I think traditionally with family run businesses that have been, handed on to the next generation. This is the way we always did it. This always made us this amount of money. It's not broke, so let's not fix it. But
Yeah.
equally, it's probably winding down because you're not keeping pace with modern thinking and modern platforms, and maybe you haven't thought about trademarking and all of those sorts of things that go along with business. Maybe you don't have a great relationship with your bank manager or whatever. The fundamentals that will be the foundations for driving your business forward. So you would hope people have those things ironed out, but I'm surprised often that people don't. So.
One thing I find is that probably the most dangerous state of business, or really pretty much everything, is when it kind of works. When it doesn't work, when you're losing money and there's no hope, it's easy to make a decision to stop doing it and start doing something else. When it works amazingly, you're also pretty good. But when it kind of works, that's the most dangerous one, because it paralyzes us because we're afraid that it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
And we don't really do much to change everything to make it significantly better, which is where really all that scaling strategies come into play. Right?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Of course, the classic entrepreneurial thought process, as you say, is it's working perfectly and we're making money. Oh, I get a bit bored, so I start tinkering with it and I start changing something because I can change it, and so you end up creating chaos. And you take the down bit on the roller coaster, and so you have to tinker with it to get it back. And I see that happen, over and over again with entrepreneurs that have created something, got it working, it runs, completely well, but now they're bored and don't know what to do. What they should do is actually take that spirit and those ideas and go and do something else, and leave that business running and not tinker with it. And I tell you from personal experience, I've done that. I've tinkered with it. I've broken it just so I can fix it again because I want to make it better, rather than let's just improve it. Let's break it first and then let's make it better. So,
in terms of mindset, in terms of skill set, what is different for entrepreneurs and business owners who are hoping to scale their business from 1 mil to 3 mil compared to when they're trying to scale their business from, let's say, first 100,000 to 1 million? What changes here?
Yeah, I think what changes is you've got to make sure that all of the processes you've got in place are robust enough to take that next leap. So whether that's having enough in the production pipeline, whether that's having enough salespeople to be able to scale up, whether or not your margin is sufficient for you to let's go for it, let's reduce some costs and drag in more sales. So I think you've got to make sure your processes, your systems are robust. You're robust yourself as well, that you are up for the challenge. And I think that's a big mindset as well. That having a target for that, and I mean, I'm a big believer in setting goals and KPIs in any business. Otherwise, you're just going along the road and waiting to see where the next left turn is. So having something that you are focused on going for, and you're not going to go 3 to 5 instantly. You're going to go 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, right? You're not. It's not that big leap that everybody thinks. It's got to be controlled. It needs to be managed properly. Whether it's upscaling your marketing efforts, whether it's looking at how you cross-sell and upsell clients, because that's sometimes the simplest way of growing a business, right? Is by looking at your current client base and seeing what other services you have that they don't buy. And I've sat with many salespeople on sales calls where I've heard the customers say, "Oh, I didn't know you did that." And that's because they've always bought,
Face bomb.
yeah, exactly. They've always just bought pens from them, but they didn't realize they did pencils, right? There's the analogy.
Right.
So, but also, sales in that way has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. Okay. Everybody knows, ABC, always be closing, all of that sort of rubbish. But it's about relationships now. It's about understanding and understanding your customer and understanding their needs and forming that real tight bond. So even if it's something that you don't do, you're the go-to guy that they ask. Right. And this has worked for me numerous occasions where people have wanted something quite specific and think I'm the right person for it, and I'm not. So I'll go, through my network of people I trust and work with, we'll go, actually, this is the person you need to go to talk to. And that just strengthens your relationship. You're not losing business from it because it comes back to you tenfold as well. So, strong processes, just to go back to your original point, strong processes, being robust, looking at ways that you can cross-sell and upsell your existing business, and how can you make your marketing be more effective? They're the big processes.
Well, speaking of sales, my mentor, Dan Locke, calls ABC always be caring.
Yes,
and
I love that.
This is such a mind shift for a lot of people, because when you go through his course on closing, it really is all about listening to them and figuring out what we do can help them rather than how. And one thing I love about him is that he says closing is not what we do to people; it's what we do for people.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the next question I have for you is, so a lot of the people in my audience who are going to be listening to this interview, they're just hoping to get to that $1 million mark. And so the question I have for you is this: because you've coached so many businesses on that level, you've probably noticed some common characteristics among the entrepreneurs who've gotten to the $1 million mark. If you could, let's say, name 5, what's the 5 things that are common for people who get to the point of, okay, we got to $1 million?
In terms of their personalities?
In terms of personalities, in terms of what they do, in terms of whatever, something that you keep noticing over and over and over and over again is something that's common.
So consistently, they know their market. They know where they're aiming their efforts, and they have absolute laser focus on that. Right? They're not distracted. Entrepreneurs run towards shiny lights, right? These guys don't. These know exactly the problem they're solving. They know how they're solving it, and they have a laser-like focus on it. The other thing that is prevalent amongst all of those guys is they get the product out there quickly, right? Mm-hmm. Particularly in tech, you see people overdeveloping, and this has just come out, so we need to add this. Get it out there. Right, get an MVP out there, get early adopters, because they're going to be the people that will join your tribe and will sing about it. It doesn't matter if it's clunky, it doesn't matter if it's got a bug, if it's solving a problem and you continue to develop it, they love that. New things added and so on. So get the product out there quickly would be the other thing. Well capitalized as well, And I say this a lot when I speak at universities and when I speak to entrepreneurial groups, that however much money you think you're going to need, let me tell you now, it's going to be more. So make sure that you have that money, you're prepared, and then make sure that you do have a business plan, you do have a marketing plan, and then the very successful people. And this is something somebody said to me on a plane years and years ago: know what they know what they don't know, and are known for what they know. Okay. So you build a team around you that is loyal and has the same vision. There was a very interesting article yesterday about why tech people love to run and work for startups. And it's because they love the fact it's new technology and they think they're getting on the ground floor. But those people then become immensely loyal to that brand and that product. even if they move on to other projects and other businesses. So build a strong team, and they're the ones that are very successful as well. Understand what their limits are and what they're good at. Right. And again, common mistake in entrepreneurs, we're good at everything. It doesn't matter. We're good at sales, we're good at marketing, we're good at the accounts, whatever whatever it needs in the business, we can do it. Wrong, guys. You can't. Okay. Let's be honest. Let's say it how it is. Know what your strengths are, and then build that team around you. They don't need to be employees. Okay. You can outsource a lot of things now. You can outsource, virtual assistants, to have an outsourced CPA, get yourself a business coach or a mentor to support you and help you. But you can't do everything. So understand that and build your team quickly. They're the traits I see more and more for people that are very successful.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because I think if you're as good at everything as your core competency, it probably means you're not very competent at your core competency.
Absolutely right. Yeah, totally agree.
Because if your time is just as well spent doing everything, it means that you're not bringing anything unique to the marketplace.
Yeah. As Michael Gerber says, work on the business, don't work in the business.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing that people should remember.
It's funny. I just met him. Had a conversation one-on-one, and I told him how much I didn't want to read the book, because like about 5 or 10 people told me, just read the book. And finally I read E-Myth, and that was a big moment for me when I realized, oh my God.
Yeah.
And the next book that I read right after it was Built to Sell by John Warrilow. And that, in combination with E-Myth, was basically the prototype for Trademark Factory.
Fabulous.
And I told him about the story, and he's like, "Yep." In his head as always.
His hat. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So look, this is great. This is actually very, very useful, because I see so many entrepreneurs make the mistake that just all about the hustle. You can hustle all day long, but there will be a point beyond which your hustle is not going to get you to grow.
You're right. I mean, it's also that your hustle isn't a business. It is just a hustle, right? And I think the other thing people have to be aware of, particularly those that are just starting in business, is at some point you have to be realistic with you. Is actually, do I have a business, or do I just have a hobby that makes me money? Because they're two totally different things, right? I met with somebody recently who is immensely passionate about what they do, and it's a worthwhile cause, and it's all the things that people should be thinking about. Mm-hmm. But they don't have a business plan, and they don't have the capital, and they're more worried about paying their bills and paying their rent, and then trying to get a business off the ground. And we had this very frank conversation about just focus on one thing first. Right, focus on getting some stability into your life, getting some, so you're not firefighting every day around, paying my rent or putting gas in my car, so that you can then come back to this renewed with energy and move forward. Mm-hmm. But as you say, everybody's talking about. I think hustling. I know hustling's been around for a long time in a various form, but it's only probably in the last 5 or 6 years that it's meant, people trying to get in the groove and make a business for themselves, and so on. So I think, people that have side hustles because they want to get out of mainstream employment and do something good, that's great. But you still have to, you still need to, have a plan and understand the mechanics of running a business, because right now that's the way the world works.
Yeah.
And with technology and the internet and Instagram, and I think Instagram's now becoming the fastest growing sales channel, I read the other day.
Hmm.
That you can understand all of those mechanics, and people are like, well, should I be on TikTok and should I be on LinkedIn and should I be on Twitter and Facebook and all of that? My advice is concentrate on two or three anyway, because that's the only amount of energy that you can do and do well.
Right.
And then at some point decide, okay, I can commit to this, and then have all those attributes that we spoke about earlier.
So this is Kick-Ass Brand Show. Curious to hear from you, your perspective about the importance of a brand. At which point do you think a brand is important? How do you pick a good brand? What do you think is a good brand? What do you think makes a brand kick ass? And at what point do you want to look into thinking of this brand or that brand?
So I was really lucky because the pop-up retailing and so on wasn't really around, 20 years ago. And in 1997, I was actually on film as saying, I don't know who came up with the phrase pop-up retail, but until somebody says it's them, I'm saying it's me. And then claim the niche for that brand, the URL and everything that went with it. But I think it's like Simon Sinek says, people identify with the why. Okay, the Apple thing, the whole Southwest Airlines. You identify with drum kit brands and sticks, I'm sure, because of the value and the feel and all of those sorts of things, the craftsmanship and everything as well. So trademarking and brand alliance is so key with everything going on. And I'll be honest, I've learned a lot about that from you in recent months as well, more than I thought I could. So I would encourage anybody, when you're thinking of your brand, obviously you do need to trademark it for all the reasons that you can tell people and all the reasons that they should. But also I think understand what your brand wants to communicate with people as well. Even right down to the words you use in communication, the look and feel of even your typeface, the way in which you express yourself on film, or when you do going lives, they all matter to that brand and to how people interact and feel either an allegiance to it or just feel it's not for me or whatever. So it's so important. So important.
You made a great point that a brand is not just the name and the logo; it's everything around it. It's really it's not about what it is; it's about how it makes people feel and what it makes people talk about.
Yeah, absolutely right. And anybody that think creating a company is just about creating a logo, needs to go back to business 101 and start again. The brand is certainly in the business I'm in. The brand is about my personality and who I am, and should reflect the way in which I want to do business and reflect the clients that I want to attract into my business because they feel that strong bond. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just a nice logo with bright colors that's innovative and current. It's everything. It's everything to do with that business.
Yeah, and the way I see it, and I think there's a lot of misconception around it. I would like to get your perspective on that. So there's this misconception, I think, around branding is that if those people who do understand that brand is more than just the name and the logo, sometimes it leads them to dismiss the importance of having a name and the logo. And I'm saying it's just backwards. Just because a brand is more than that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a name, that you shouldn't have a logo, that you shouldn't have a tagline that people can remember you by. They're like, well, didn't you just say that a brand is more than? Yes, of course it is more than that, but there has to be something for people to attach their memories about you to, right? Whether it's a name, a logo, or something else. And yes, you do have to protect them because in the end of the day, yes, of course, you're going to create more than just slap a logo in their face, but they have to have a reference point for them to go back to.
Hmm.
It's funny because there's a bunch of people who think that, yeah, I'm just going to create a logo and that's going to do all the work for me. Ain't going to happen.
No.
It's not about just creating a logo and thinking that it's the end of it, but it's also not the opposite, that you don't need to have the name and the logo, and all you have to do is just create a great experience, a great product, a great service, and that's going to build my brand. You have to have both. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
I agree. There has to be a balance between the two. The other thing to realize, I think, as well, is that we're at a time in history where there are more personal brands out there than there have ever been
Yeah,
in time, right?
very true.
And whilst this might be, somebody's branding right now, this is going to change over time. I know mine has. Right? So it can't just be your face all the time. Even if you look at the stuff again, just going back to people like Gary V, has got this green logo with his signature on things now that he didn't have 12 months ago. And I think it's just about connecting with people on a different level around, like your trademark banner behind you. Okay. Like the Apple logo, like the Coca-Cola sign, or whatever it might be, that people do need to attach themselves to it, and that your face as your brand isn't just going to carry it through, because uh, facial recognition from other people is very much a personal thing, and you can whether or not you're Kim Kardashian at one end, or
It's not
you're
really a face in her case, though.
no, well, no, probably not. Maybe that's a poor example, but it needs to be something more than that. I think is the point. And you're right. There has to be a balance between attaching your your allegiance and your loyalty to something more than just the fact somebody's got a million likes on Instagram, or a million followers on YouTube, or whatever it might be. Life's a bit deeper than that, in my opinion.
So, if you were to leave us with three most valuable lessons for what not to do when you're trying to build a successful business, stuff that you learned throughout the years, and let's say, you all you had is the ability to say, here are the three lessons, don't do this, and your chances of making it big are going to be much higher. What would those be?
That's a great question. There's nothing like putting somebody on the spot, is there? So the three lessons, I would say: make sure that you build that team around you, right? Whether it's advisors, an advisory board, whatever it might be, designers, engineers, lawyers. Just build a strong team, but a team that will be honest with you as well. And that's really important. That would be my first thing, I think. The second lesson I would say is research and know your market. Know what it is that you're going for and what you're looking to achieve, and know who the competition is, and know what their strengths are, and know what their weaknesses are. And then the third thing, can I have four? Because the third thing would be, and this is the opposite of what really the question. If you're not going to get there, know when to stop, right? Know that this isn't going to work for whatever reason it might be, right? Just know that you can draw a line, and you're not just pouring money down a drain all the time. Know when to stop. And the fourth one is make sure you get yourself a trademark.
Yeah. So you're basically the way I asked you the question, what not to do. So if we were to rephrase your four answers, one is trying to do everything yourself without a
Yeah,
team. The
yeah.
other one would be just being there for everybody rather than knowing a market specifically, right? The third one would be what?
Know when to quit.
Yes, is just going at it and going at it, even though
Yeah,
it's not working. And yeah, last one
yeah.
is not trademarking a brand before it's too late.
Yeah. They're the lessons. They're the lessons. You got it. You got it.
Yeah. Is there a question that you think I should have asked you, but I didn't, and you really want to answer that question?
Oh, no, there isn't actually. I mean, I love doing stuff like this because it's connecting with people that I would probably never get to speak to anyway. So thank you for the opportunity of doing that, and I'm always delighted. Anybody else that's doing stuff like this, I'm always available. So thank you for that. No, it's good because it challenges me to think about my journey and some of the lessons I've learned. You know, there's 101 things we could have spoken about today, I'm sure. But listen, it's been an absolute pleasure for me. Thank you.
How do people find you, and what do they find you for, and what's the best way for them to get to know you better?
Yeah, so you can find my website. It's very simple. It's thepopupexpert.com. Very easy. You can find me on LinkedIn, Stephen A. Brooks on LinkedIn, The Pop-Up Expert. If you want to email me, just email me at steve@thepopupexpert.com as well. So they're very easy. And
we're going to put the links in the video.
Yeah, so they're very easy to remember. Listen, if you're looking to make that next leap between the 1 and the 3 million, I'd love to talk to you. I talk to all sorts of people. I'm a big believer, as I know you are, in adding value up front and just talking to people about where they are and whether or not I'm a good fit for them or whatever. So I'm always open to having a conversation. Please don't ever feel, or the clock's going and tick, I'm going to get a bill. That's not what I'm about. And I like connecting with interesting and new people, or people that are dedicated to what they do. So reach out. I'm always happy to connect.
Look, I know I have to do all the dirty work for you, but you had this great little downloadable book that I know you make available for people, the lead magnet, right? And just for everyone listening and watching, it's not just a lead magnet to get your email and spam the heck out of you. It actually gives you a lot of great information that you can use right away. So how do they get that?
Yeah, so you just go to the website. You can download the 10K challenge book, and it will give you the principles of finding $10,000 in your business in 45 minutes or less. I'll even do it for you. So read the book and then come back to me, and we'll sit down and we'll find that money. More often than not, we find much more than $10,000. Thank you for promoting that for me. That was very.
Like I said, I have to do all the dirty work for you, man. Come on. Who doesn't want to get an extra 10K in their business 45 minutes? Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I'm way too humble for my own good. So the 10K challenge, download it. And listen, I've got some other books that I give away for free if you send me your email address. Pop Up for Beginners, Secrets of the Business Wealth Accelerators, Make an Exhibition for Yourself, books I've written. Always happy to share those. There's some amazing content in them, not just from me in business. The Secrets of the Business Wealth Accelerators, interesting story. 33 of us got together, wrote a book in 4 weeks. Went on to, it was a number one bestseller on Amazon Business Books for a while. And there are some amazing people in there, including myself, but
of course,
from social media experts to accountants in specific niches to people that flip houses. Daniel Priestley from Dent is one of the authors in there. Dr. Joanna Martin, who's a great teacher of how to speak publicly. An enormous friend of mine, David Holland, who's a wonderful business coach as well. So, but thank you for the opportunity to shout about those.
All right. So there's, like I said, there's a whole wealth of knowledge in this, and everyone watching really recommend that you get that and see if you get some value out of that. You can't really not, but it's all about, start with that. If you see that there's an interest for you to connect with Steve personally, do that. Again, this is not an interview just to sell Steve's services, but I'm sure that if you're at the point when you want to scale your business from 1 mil to 3 mil, it's a good place to start. So, Steve, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so for much. Sharing what you've shared, and I look forward to our raters seeing each other there all the time, because I'm very interested. I see what you've done for Victor and how his business has been growing, and the things that he's doing as per your advice. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. That's
And
immensely kind of you.
like I said, I'd love to stay on your radar. I want you to stay on my radar.
Sure.
And hopefully this show will put you on the radar of a lot of people.
Thank you very much indeed. That's very kind of you. Okay. And thanks for listening, everybody, and watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve and I would love to hear from you. What's your biggest takeaway from this episode? What did you learn today that you're going to implement in your business? Leave your comment below and share this interview with your friends. Make sure to download the 10K Business Challenge book from Steve's website at thepopupexpert.com. Now, one other thing. Our YouTube channel has been consistently growing lately, and it motivates me to create more and more content for you about branding, entrepreneurship, and trademarks. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, yes, I'm talking to you. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do it now. And hit that bell button to get notified whenever the next video goes live. And if you think you deserve to be on the show because you have a kick-ass brand, email me at next@kickassbrandshow.com. It's next@kickassbrandshow.com. And until then, I will see you in the next video.